Jon and Tom stand tall, discussing corruption, answering the call. Osceola's whispers, the truth we unveil. With each podcast episode we set sail. Unsanctioned voices, we won't be ignored. Taking through lies, we strike a chord. Unsanctioned truth, we're here for the fight. Jon and Tom shining through the night. With every debate, we're raising the stakes, taking down villains for justice's sake. Politicians trembling, they know we're awake. With facts on our side, we're here to shake. From local elections to making it clear, together we rise, let's spread the fear. Shining the light, the darkness won't last. In Osceola's depths, we're breaking the cast. Unsanctioned truth, we're here for the fight. Jon and Tom shining through the night. With every debate, we're raising the stakes, taking down villains for justice's sake. Shining the light, the darkness won't last. In Osceola's depths, we're breaking the cast. Unsanctioned truth, we're here for the fight. Jon and Tom shining through the night. With every debate, we're raising the stakes, taking down villains for justice's sake. So tune in each week, don't miss the show. Jon and Tom will help you know.
You can get some.
What are you wearing?
What am I wearing?
Are you wearing Trump merch?
Yeah, I'm dressed up as a Trump supporter.
Oh, it's beyond inappropriate.
We support the Democratic Party. Go change or turn your camera off.
No, I'm not turning off my camera.
Okay.
Guys, it's a Halloween costume. Why are you making this?
It's the reason we exist. I've had enough of this. I'm setting up a meeting with HR for your termination.
I agree.
Termination?
You're done. You're done.
What?
We have been here before.
You are done.
Termination for what? Are you serious right now?
Hey, guys.
Cute.
Hey, Q.
Sweet costume, dude.
You're not going to say anything about his costume?
What about it?
If this is inappropriate, then what the hell is that?
What's inappropriate about it? I'm a ghost, bro.
You're a ghost?
What did you think I was?
I don't know. Never mind.
Why is everybody so tense, man? What's going on?
David's getting fired for wearing Trump merch.
That's so stupid. Eric actually voted for Trump.
What?
Yeah, he voted for Trump both elections.
Eric, you literally told me yesterday you voted for Jill Stein.
I wasn't the only one. Chris did too.
Dude, come on.
This is insane. How many of you actually voted for Trump? Oh my gosh, none of this leaves this meeting. So Harrison, you're the only one who didn't vote for Trump?
I mean, I'm not registered to vote.
None of this leaves this meeting.
Welcome to Unsanctioned.
Good evening, everyone. Zinelli
Stephanie Hernandez. And tonight I want to take this moment to thank a member John Abuelo, for an outstanding job these last 4 years. So on behalf of Young Hope Ministries, the communities I serve, and of course our district, District 3, I say thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for taking a firm stand against issues that were and are still trending, but that are destructive to young people. Thank you for trying so very hard to implement the very needed chaplaincy program and trying to pass resolutions that will protect students and parental rights from potential future mandates. Even though no other members stood with you on that, we, the people of Osceola, took notice and thanks you for giving your all in representing us. We will never forget that you took a stand where it mattered and when it mattered. This trophy right here is something for you to remember us. And my blessing for you is that your next God-given assignment be once more blessed by God, and that you prosper in all that you do. May God bless your going out and your coming in according to Psalm 23. May he restore your soul and lead you in the path of righteousness for his name's sake. May goodness and mercy follow you all the days of your life. I do bless you in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Thank you, John, and thank you all members of this board and the administration. Amen.
Wow, John, just really beautiful the way the community came out for your final school board meeting, your final meeting as a member of the Osceola County School Board. And let me just say this, I was not able to attend that meeting last night, but you have been the arrow, the tip of the arrow, the spear of conservative values for Osceola County, for the Osceola County community, for the kids in the Osceola County schools. You are the one that brought together a whole group of people to defeat many things. And if it wasn't for you, all right, and you had 3 huge wins in your 4 years on that school board. You defeated the mask mandates, you defeated the inappropriate books in the schools, and finally last night, you got through the implementation of the chaplain program in our schools. And none of this would have happened if you hadn't been there, John. My heart goes out to you. You've always been an inspiration to me. Before we even came together and created this friendship, which, just happened, the way it did. It was just very weird the way we came together. Me from St. Cloud, you Kissimmee. But thank you so much for all you've done on the school board. And I know that your fight's not over. It's not done. Even though you're not a school board member now, you're still Jon Unsanctioned, and you're going to keep fighting for Osceola County.
Wow. Well, thank you, Tom. And you're the guy that preps the show, and you put that video in there, and I appreciate it. It's very nice. It was very humbling, that meeting. I didn't know what to expect. In my mind, I was focused on making sure that we got that chaplain program to the finish line. And that had nothing to do with, a partisan thing, or it had nothing to do with political beliefs. It had everything to do with providing something for our kids that would help them, and that would be a program that would actually have effect on our community in a positive way. Probably more so than anything else that they do at school. No. It has the potential for that. So that was my focus to the last day, to make sure that we got that at the last meeting. Interestingly enough, it was a battle. I didn't expect for it to be a battle because we had the votes. We knew that we had the votes already, right? And at the same time, I also knew that they were going to play games, because what they didn't want was for me to carry the victory, right? Yeah. They were saying that they were okay with the chaplain program, but they were not okay with me carrying a victory for the issue. So in my mind, I had already prepared to turn that over to somebody else. It was my intention all along to allow Ramsey to make the motion after I withdrew a motion, because I knew that they would accept it if he did it.
Right.
But I had to make sure strategically that everyone had already committed enough to the program before I withdrew my motion. And so it kind of like everybody just kind of did their role, acted in their usual manner. They fought over nothing. They, spoke about things that were irrelevant. They were trying to delay and they were trying to beat me. And then at the end of the day, I was debating with an attorney, a lackluster attorney, an attorney who is absolutely probably one of the worst attorneys I have ever seen in my life. In terms of her job, she's literally probably the worst attorney I've ever had a chance to observe. And it's not even close. I don't know anybody else that I can compare to her that would be as bad as she is or near as bad as she is. That's how bad the attorney for the school district is, in my opinion, just in my personal opinion.
Wow.
And here I am debating her. She's not a member of the board. But here she is giving bad legal advice about, oh, well, that's a compound motion. No, it's not that. And, oh, well, you can't do this. And, I get it. She didn't want it, right?
Yeah.
And she didn't want it either because she didn't want it or because one of the school board members had already instructed her to run interference and so on. But at the end of the day, after the fight, after the battle, the strategy worked. We handed it off to Ramsey. We brought it all the way up to the finish line. And then I just handed him off the ball at the goal line and he walked it in. So Ramsey gets the touchdown. But at the end of the day, the people who win the game is the students of Osceola County. And so it was a huge victory.
Well, John, I don't think that the community, especially the community that's been watching all along, believes for 1 minute that it was Ramsey's touchdown. And I'm just going to leave it at that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think like I said, the important thing is that the victory didn't go to anybody. The victory really went to the kids who now, in December, intentionally December, my date was December 25th, but it was December, the month of the birth of Jesus Christ, to pass the chaplains program where kids will now have access. And the policy is actually religious freedom and access to all programs that are legal. Right. And so it was one of them. And so it's a good celebration. I'm sure that they might play games in the future, but the bottom line is we will have the program in Osceola County now, unless the brand new school board members voted in, to negate it. And that would be a really tough move for them.
I think that's something we got to watch for.
Oh, yeah. I mean, everybody's going to be ready for it. And that's everybody's going to be ready for that. So, but, well, anyways, I appreciate the sentiment. It was a great feeling. You mentioned the three things that we beat mask mandates. We got this chaplain program, but we also, with the aid of the community, we changed out the superintendent.
Yeah.
We got rid of the lobbyist who was responsible for so much corruption and who had supported the illegal sex trade.
Yep.
Right. We got rid of him. That was a big victory. He's still not there. Maybe they bring him back, but now they have to bring him back after the controversy of us getting rid of the guy who had supported the illegal sex trade, a guy who had already gotten into a physical altercation with a school board member. He attacked a school board member. I mean, this is already so to bring him back, I think would be difficult, but nonetheless, you never know.
Yeah.
And, so we had a lot of victories for the teacher. It was the first that created over the last 4 years, a situation was recreated where the teachers actually had a bargaining position because they had a school board member who was actually on their side in practice and execution. And that allowed for them to bargain because they knew that there was so much political pressure on the dais that they had to make the agreement in order to not look like a bunch of idiots. So, that happened. I mean, it was just an overall success. And I feel very, gratified by the experience and humbled by the experience, and and I'm ready for it to be done. And
well, John, I just wanted you to know that your school board run, your term as a school board member was definitely by far a huge success and success for the community.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, on that, we welcome you to another episode of Unsanctioned Florida. It's been a couple of days since we did our last Florida show. We got a jam-packed show. A lot of it is central. and a lot of great stories. So stick with us. Please like and share the show. Make sure that you pass it on. Let your friends know that it's on. Of course, today we're wearing our MAGA hats. Mine came in the mail today, so I'm happily and excitedly wearing our my MAGA hat, Dark MAGA. And let's go through some of these stories, and then we'll say a prayer, and then we'll get right down into it. And as a matter of fact, let's say a prayer first, and then we'll do it. Lord, we are so appreciative to you for the blessing of being born as an American. To be an American, it's a huge privilege. It's like nothing else in the world. There's no country like it in the world. There's no place in the world where our freedom is guaranteed by your grace. And it's your grace that extends our freedoms and liberties to us, not any government. That is unique to the United States, and we are truly grateful. We're grateful to live in this great state of Florida, where there is so much activity on behalf of patriots fighting for their state and their country and their community. We pray that it continues, that you inspire people to do more and more until we have control over our state, until we have control over our future, until we have control over our ability to be freedom-loving, faith-practicing Americans in the way that the founding fathers intended. Lord, at the same time, I wanted to just say thank you for the past 4 years. I am truly appreciative. I am humbled. I hope that I made you proud. I hope that I made my community. I hope that I served everyone well. I know that I could have done better, but I feel like I also did my best under most circumstances. So I'm just incredibly grateful for the blessing that you provided me with that. And I hope that the school board members who come in, the incoming school board members and the incoming leaders after these elections, come in with a brand new spirit, a brand new heart of service, that they come with the right reasons, and that they, most importantly, keep those right reasons through their term when things get tough and when they get the pressure that is from a negative place and from the enemies of the people and of God. In your son's name, I ask these things. Amen.
Amen.
From the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And so another thing, let's read the headlines and let's get to it. So on this episode, the Debs votes as fake as their masculinity. We just saw that in the video that opened up the show. Of course, I'm humbled by the people who have stood up for our kids coming out and saying thank you. Crazy cat lady Nikki is going to be our first story. Man, there's always a crazy cat lady Nikki story. It seems like every week she's doing something more crazy. It seems like she's trying to achieve a new personal best crazy record, right? And this time it's contempt for Senator Rick Scott, who is actually pulling away from his Democratic senatorial.
It's always Rick Scott.
It's always Rick. It's always Rick Scott. He sounds like what's the Brady middle child? It's Marsha. Yeah. Alleged assassin motions to remove a judge. We'll see what happens with that. White dudes for Harris add 2 has-been Republicans to their list. The Jacksonville mayor loses her damn mind. Orange County asks for more in taxes in order to mask waste. Kissimmee mayor's race gets even more heated. That's a crazy story. Osceola asks for more tax money after wasting millions on pet projects and $200,000 on a gay pride statue. And after collecting a record $82 million in TDT money. Incredible story. And then the Orlando Sentinel does the most grievous, just an absolute horrendous act of journalistic misfeasance. It's crazy what they're done. We're going to talk about what they did. And then residents are betrayed by election timing and their favorite pink cowboy hat wearing county commissioner, Ricky Bobby.
Hate to say we told you so.
Hate to say we told you so. We wish we could come up here and say, you know what? He got one right. But no, it's not going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. St. Cloud looking to sell redevelopment rights after selling its soul on the Brick Project. And more on this episode of Unsanctioned Florida. I'm starting to think that the Yellow Brick Road is more feasible than for St. Cloud to get a project right. More. Let's get started, Tom.
All right, here we go. We're gonna get into the news if my mouse wakes up. Okay.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, my mouse fell asleep. Okay, here we go. right, John. So yeah, you alluded to it. It's Nikki Fried just has this obsession with Rick Scott. She was on News Nation and had this to say.
This election for the U.S. Senate race is so essential. We have known that Rick Scott's favorabilities in the state of Florida are 35%. He had the largest Medicare fraud in the history of the United States, giving him a $300 million golden parachute to then use to be for his first governor's race, second governor's race, and U.S. Senate race. He has bought his way into government here in the state of Florida. He is bad on Social Security. He wants to eliminate Social Security, wants to eliminate Medicaid, and obviously we know what he did with Medicare.
Pause it for a second. I gotta do that in real time. Something that she said here, which is interesting. He bought his way into government in Florida, right? Okay, so she said that. I want everybody to notate it. Go ahead, play.
Yeah.
On reproductive health care would go to Washington, D.C. and eliminate access to health care for women across the entire country. Yeah.
You know, this is the thing we've talked about. We've talked about this several times on the show, John. She is obsessed with Rick Scott. If they lose Florida, if they lose the presidency, as long as they get Rick Scott, I think in her mind it's a win. It's a win for Democrats.
Absolutely.
You know, but
and it would be, would be because they have no chance at winning the presidency in Florida. They have there's no reasonable way for them. It would take an act of betrayal by the GOP to lose Florida, right? They would have to actively sabotage Florida in order for the Democrats to win Florida, right? If you're a Democrat in Florida, you might as well not even go out and vote for the president. Your vote is absolutely inconsequential. We just saw there, Rick Scott had a 70% chance of winning re-election. That's Rick Scott. His race is 3 percentage points, right, separated, and that means that he's 70% chance of winning. 70% chance of winning. In my fantasy football league, I've never had a 70% chance of winning. That's how big of a lead he's got. He's going to win this. He's going to win. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go make sure I make a bet at the Seminole Casino for it. He's going to win this race. There's no doubt about it. And if he wins his race, then by 10 times of a magnitude, Donald Trump is going to win Florida.
Yeah.
So they have no hope. So that's why you have this second-tier team. Florida's already a second-tier state. It's a second tier in terms of not that important. It's not a battleground state. They know that they're going to win. And then they sent all the scrubs. Remember a year ago, we were talking about that, Tom. They sent all of their scrubs. They sent literally like a bunch of teenagers. So, you know, like it was like, what are your qualifications? I'm transgender. Hired. You're the new chief of staff for the entire Democrat Party campaign team for Joe Biden. Right? It was like the worst of the worst. They were taking hot bodies. And if you weren't hot, as long as you had, you know, an arm or one leg, they would put you in the game.
Hey, John, remember they couldn't get anybody to come to their convention that they had here in Florida.
They couldn't get a single person to come to their convention. You're right. They had to have people appear via Zoom. That's how sad. And even the people that appeared via Zoom were not people of big note. You know, it's not like you had these big stars, right?
Yeah.
So it was just an incredible failure by all parts in Tallahassee by the Democrat state party. Now, the funny thing about what she's saying is you're 100% right. She's absolutely obsessed. She's obsessed with Rick Scott the way that Scott Maxwell is obsessed with Carolina Amnesty. You know, he just can't leave her alone. He goes to sleep with her picture under his pillow. You know, this is her, right? Like she's like this. She's got like a monument of Rick Scott in a bust of Rick Scott on her dresser. You know that the lamp on her nightstand is a Rick Scott figurine. It's like she's obsessed, and she's got to let it go because he's not going to lose this election. He's going to win. This is the largest. 3% is probably the largest. He's always had tight races, and he always squeaks by because he knows exactly what he needs, and he's very strategic, and he doesn't make a lot of mistakes. No mistakes really, and so he's gonna win. You know, and Florida is lost for them. And the only thing that we have to be on the lookout. This is why the Republican Party feels so comfortable sabotaging some of their local races, because there's no danger of losing the bigger races, right? So you can intentionally screw the local campaigns to get people who will bend knee to the apparatus itself, because there's no consequence on a national level. If it was a battleground state, then you would see all kinds of turmoil and gnashing of teeth in Tallahassee.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And I was going to say that, John. Like you see them trying to sabotage local races, but not the big races, and especially not somebody like Rick Scott. And like you said, he has no danger of losing. You know, we can show that right now. This is another poll. Scott 49, Mukersel Powell at 46. This was between October 7th through 18th at University of North Florida. There's just no way that he's going to lose. And there's no way President Trump's going to lose either. Look at this. A dominant lead in Florida. Trump 53%, Harris 47%. So
yeah, 1% more, and it falls into the realm of impossibility.
Yeah,
I mean that's like 7% is normally like a line in the sand that people, if it's 7% difference, then they won't invest in that race, right? They won't even invest in that race at 7%. So there's not a lot that they can do. Florida is lost to them. The problem is that I don't think, on a strategic level, I don't think that the Florida Republican Party wants supermajority any longer, right? Yeah. That's why they sabotaged the state Senate race in 25. That's why they sabotage a bunch of these local races. That's why they're not coming out and fighting for Carolina Amnesty or Paula Stark, because they're okay losing those 2 seats, I think. Yeah. And that added responsibility that comes with a supermajority means that you got to pass conservative legislation. You no longer have an excuse not to get things done, like open carry and things that the citizens want like that, when they don't want to do it, right? Yeah. So it's like, okay, well, maybe we give up supermajority. So what seats? Well, it won't look suspicious if we lose a seat in some blue county. Everything else will still win everywhere else. Yeah. And so we can still have this, what we want, and without having the responsibility.
If we lost a couple of seats in Central Florida, because Central Florida, it's done.
Yeah, because you don't win by accident, right? Like in the last election, when they won, when Paula Stark won, right? When Carolina Amnesty won, it's not like they didn't know or they didn't assume what was going to happen. They thought that might happen. Paula Stark, that was kind of you could interpret that could have gone either way, right? But if she wins, and that's in the heart of a blue district, then that's where you make the battlefield. That's what's advantageous, right? Because then the red spreads, right? And they're having the fight in their own backyard. But instead, you're allowing her to lose a seat or to have to fight hard in a seat here. I'm sure that Paula is going to pull it out at the end. But how much are they helping her? A lot of people are complaining. A lot of conservatives are complaining. I have not seen anything yet. I'm not receiving what I would expect in the campaign. I'm not feeling confident in her campaign to win, right? So maybe Paul is more confident than we are, but still that's not good. You want there to be like it doesn't have to be exact, but you want people to know the effort that you're putting in, because that tells you that you're feeling good. Now, she's probably not doing a lot of campaigning to Republicans. Why would you be, right? You got to assume that you're going to win all the Republicans. Yeah. But in a small community, in a small space like that district, then the conservatives normally would notice how much campaigning she's doing, right? Yeah. So, but right now I don't think that the community feels like they can, like they do. And it's a stark contrast on the Carolina Amnesty side, right? She's a staunch Republican. She's a hardcore, she's to the right. She believes in her values. She's been very devout to her values, to her conservative values. Now, in the last race, in her first race, there were signs for Carolina Amnesty across her district, down 192, for example, all the way past her district into 47.
All
right?
over Apopka Vineland Road.
A few months ago, there were still large signs for Carolina Amnesty on 192 in District 47. Yeah. Right? And so it wasn't until recently that the next wave of signs in this election cycle were put up that sign came down. So, but we're not seeing that now, right?
John,
and so,
am I wrong that Carolina and Paula Stark won their seats in 2022?
No, I think they did win in 2022.
So they ran in 2022, which was a non-presidential year.
Right.
Now they're in a presidential year when really there's massive turnout. And we know that there's massive turnout. right now is when they need to be campaigning the most, where they need to be hitting the ground the hardest, because the Democrats are coming out in full force. And I think that's part of the reason why Paula won so easily. Part of her district is BVL, part of her district is St. Cloud. So she's absolutely got the St. Cloud vote. There's no way that she's going to lose that. But BVL is the toss-up, and I don't think those voters turned out in 2022. We had 18% turnout in 2022. It was horrible. And God only knows what it's going to look like right now. But I can tell you this, I have seen the Democrats pushing hard in our districts, pushing hard for Maria Reveles. I've seen her on streaming ads. I've heard her on iHeartRadio. I've heard her on Spotify on ads, on X. The Democrats are coming after these seats hardcore. They want a big win. And I don't see our RPOF doing anything for these seats.
Well, certainly we don't feel their presence here in Osceola County.
Yeah.
There's a lot of races going on, and there was a lot of potential for this county. And I think that they actively sabotaged a lot of the races that might have been successful because they didn't want, at the end of the day, they didn't want to invest in those races.
No.
They didn't want to win them. And that was because of our own Republican leadership, Republican elected people here in Osceola County, and former Republican elected people sabotaged the true conservatives for a multitude of reasons, right? None of them good.
Yeah.
So that was the real problem in Osceola County. And so now we can, it's just like us. We are the Democrats in the larger state of Florida, in terms of the hopes that we have for winning the county, right? Like our hopes for winning Republican seats in Osceola County is as viable as it is for Democrats to win the entire state. And so that's a terrible
that's a dismal outlook, John. I mean, that's dismal.
Yeah, well, it is what it is, right?
Yeah,
now we're going to vote.
Yeah.
We're going to vote. Like, you're going to see Republicans vote. They're going to vote. But Republicans are not going to stand. They're going to go out and they're going to vote for Trump.
Yeah.
Right? The problem is that we don't have the numbers. Yeah. Right? So it doesn't matter. No, we could turn out the vote like crazy. But if the Democrats come out in what they have in previous years, then we cannot match that in a presidential election cycle. So, we did that. And why? Because we didn't put in candidates that were going to energize the base to get new people, right? We didn't have people that are like super hardcore Republicans that were going to energize the people that Trump energizes, right? To vote down the ballot. We didn't get anybody that was so spectacular. It's just a lot of things went wrong in the election cycle that are gonna have a negative impact, right? And so everybody's marketing to the Democrats right now. Right now, the Democrats are the target. MPAs are the target. And so conservatives are not. But what that does is it reduces the base that's going to come out. So they're hoping that Trump alone is going to bring out everybody who's going to vote down the ballot. And I think that that's a mistake. You need to do both. If you're a candidate and you're running, in Osceola County, then you need to turn out your base. You need to make sure that that makes it down to your election on the ballot. And then you also, you don't have to get them necessarily to the polls because Trump is going to do that. You need to get them to go down the ballot. That's what your job is.
Yeah.
And nobody's doing that. That's the part that we're not seeing that we would like to see.
Absolutely. All right, John. So the guy who tried to assassinate President Trump, the second one, was seeking to have Judge Eileen Cannon, recuse herself from this case. If you forgot what he looks like, here he is. This is the guy
who was also in a Black Rock video.
Yeah,
crazily enough.
Yep, and tried to recruit people to go fight in Ukraine, of all things. Well, yes, he would. His team of lawyers was asking U.S. District Judge Eileen Cannon to recuse herself from this case. The attorneys for Ryan Routh filed this 10-page motion last Thursday, formally asking Cannon to step back from the criminal case because of Trump's praise for her past rulings in his favor, the fact that the former president appointed her to the federal bench, and because of public suspicion about how she became assigned to yet another high-profile case involving Trump. The unprecedented facts and circumstances of this case at the very least create significant doubts about whether this court could preside consistent with the requisite appearance of impartiality, and any doubts must be resolved in favor of recusal. This is his defenders, Christy Militello and Renee Shivola Rowe, quoting a legal precedent, but unfortunately or fortunately for Ryan Ralph, that's not going to happen. Judge Eileen Cannon's going to stay on this case, and I couldn't see why they would have her recuse herself.
No, of course, and it failed. So, I mean, thank God. We need somebody who is strong to be the judge when this could easily devolve, like the cases against Trump have devolved into circuses by these crazy liberal activist judges. And you know, I'm glad that that this motion was denied. So this is a big victory.
Absolutely, and hopefully she throws the book at this guy. He's definitely.
I mean, he's cooked.
Loon.
He's cooked.
All right, John. So you know our show, we try to watch out for the rhinos.
Do you know what a rhino is? A rhino may be the lowest form of human life.
Yep, absolutely, they are, and
I love everything that he says. Just his cadence is hilarious.
Yeah, it is, and it's true.
This is like the guy in high school who was always funny with everything that he said, right?
Yeah.
Who delivered things with such confidence and just pure hilariousness.
He definitely knows how to deliver a line, John.
Yeah.
So this article came from AOL News. All right, so. When I read it,
that's how important it was.
When I read it, and you understand where the words are coming from. Anyway, never Trump, former Florida GOP leaders come out against former president, and you can see this is the guys right here. They look like they're both about in their 80s, standing behind a Harris Wall sign here. These guys. The AOL story starts with leaders who helped build Florida's Republican dominance over the past 3 decades step forward to announce they're supporting Democrat Kamala Harris. Now, look at the way that's written. Over the past 3 decades, so they're talking about 30 years ago, these guys. They did not help Florida's Republican dominance whatsoever. Anyway, they're saying that this could inspire other GOP loyalists to break ranks with Trump. I don't think so. Anyway, John Mack Stepanovich, a former Florida campaign director for President Ronald Reagan and campaign manager and chief of staff for Governor Bob Martinez, wow, that was a long time ago, was joined at a Harris campaign event in Tallahassee by former state comptroller Bob Milligan, a Republican elected to 2 terms on the state cabinet. Both men said they have already cast their ballots for Harris. She is a decent, well-adjusted, normal human being and not a megalomaniac who is crazy as a sprayed roach. Stepanovich said Wednesday of the contrast between Harris and Republican nominee Donald Trump. A normal, well-adjusted person, John.
Well, here's what's funny. These guys, I mean, so when they were picking out who can we ask to do this, right? It's like they went into the closet and they started, you know, like they went into the attic and they started pulling things from anywhere. Like, what about this? What about this? What about this? What about this? They, you know, like right next to a mummy from like ancient Egypt covered in dust, they find these 2 mummies, you know? And I mean, it's like this one's from 30 BC. This one's from 90 BC. I guess we're going to use the one from 30 BC because 90's too old. Yeah. I mean, these guys came out of nowhere. Nobody's going to recognize these names. You have to be so entrenched in politics to recognize these names or remember these names. I mean, Martinez may have been a great governor, but you don't want somebody in his cabinet being the guy that's leading the charge for Never Trump in Florida. That means it absolutely resonates as a failure, right? It's more damaging to their cause than anything else to use somebody from 30 years ago who looks like they just wheeled him out. The guy was eating pudding at the retirement home, and they wheeled him to this press conference to say, oh, please talk to us about why you don't like Trump. And, you know, it's the most ridiculous thing ever. It makes them look super desperate, which they are.
Yes.
And I guess, you know, beggars can't be choosers. So they had to bring in these two guys. Probably fine gentlemen, but I mean, come on.
Yeah, you know.
I mean, look at all you got. You look. It's just it's not what you want. It's just like, you know, you want people. You at some point you got to hand over the baton, right? Which is scary, right? Like right now, it's all about Generation X. Generation X is in control, all right? Like we're just in the middle. We're like, like the baby boomers are kind of like on the way out towards retirement if they haven't already. We're kind of in the lead in different places. The very youngest people in Gen X are kind of like coming up. It's like you got to pass. You can't. These guys are gonna come back from like, somebody. What? Is somebody gonna come back in like their World War I uniform and be like, "Oh, I'm a vet. I don't like Trump." Come on. Why would you do that? I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
Well,
it doesn't make any sense.
If you have to reach that far. On the America show, John, that they're pulling out all the stops right now, the Democrats. They're pulling out all the stops, made up stories. People from the past are showing up. We have some gentlemen want to bring a lawsuit from something that happened 20 years ago. Yeah. They're pulling out all the stops right now against President Trump, and we're going to talk about some of those on the America show.
The problem is that these things are all gimmicks.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And at some point, you got to understand that if your policy can't support these gimmicks can get somebody to turn their head, right? Yeah. But when they turn their head, there's nothing worth looking at.
No.
Then it's going to come back to where it was in the beginning anyways, perhaps even more. Because if that's all you have to offer, then you have nothing. We see it with Erica Booth. There's nothing to offer. No matter how many ads people can see her name. The minute you have a conversation with her, you realize there's nothing there. Right? There's no substance. There's no policy. You gain nothing. It's a ruse. Yep. Right? I mean, and so it's the same thing, like you can talk to any of these local corrupt politicians and they just don't bring anything to the table. So you can get elected because they can spend hundreds of thousands of dollars because what they bring to the table of their masters is millions of dollars, but that's all, right? And you have to hide that. Well, they're not hiding it. They're so desperate that they're trying to use all these stops, and it's just these gimmicks are not good.
No, they're not. They're not. Well, here's another one. The mayor of Jacksonville, John, Donna Deegan, went over to London for some business trip to build a business relationship with London, England. But anyway, she was over there. She got on a podcast, and she claimed that President Trump wants to round up migrants and put them in concentration camps. Here she is.
People in what would really amount to a concentration camp type situation to round them out of the country doesn't seem to me to be a very American thing to do.
I look at the opinion polls and they suggest that most Americans do support mass deportations. In your own city of Jacksonville, a third of your population are black, and you've got a proportion of Latinos as well. And some of those demographics support this policy too.
Well, I haven't seen any poll, especially in my area, that indicates that most people would be for mass deportation.
What a liar!
So if that is something you have seen, I haven't seen it myself.
No, just in your area, most people do. But I do suggest across America there seems to be a very large slice of people, and some, I imagine, in your city too. You've got a very mixed demographic.
Yeah,
too.
I'm sure that there would be some people that would probably be for that. I would just say that Jacksonville and
these
the
are the
United States
words
as a whole
of someone incredibly unprepared to have a credible rebuttal to the fact that the Americans want mass deportation.
Immigration system. Let's pass a tough border law, but to put people in what would really amount to a concentration camp type situation to round them out of the country doesn't seem to me to be a very American thing to do.
So here, this is crisis PR. This is strategic PR talk, right? Yeah. You notice that she said concentration camp twice, right? She repeated the phrase. So she used it. Initially, it got the shock, right? Like, oh my gosh, it's, like concentration. And then she used it again, which means that in her mind, she used those words intentionally. She prepared herself to use that word. She looked in the mirror and she practiced how she was going to use the phrase concentration camps. And then she used it over and over again so that she would give it a second chance at life in case the first time didn't take. This is somebody who clearly is not ready for prime time. She absolutely positively failed at this. She looks ridiculous. She seems like she's a crazy person, not like a crazy ideological person, but like a crazy person who's not speaking seriously. Concentration camp. I mean, she looks like AOC level BS.
Yeah.
Right? That's what that is. That's like AOC level immaturity. That's like Teresa Castillo crazy. That's that's nutcase stuff. Nobody's gonna. There's no concentration camp and whatever. None of that is happening. By the way, she's in Europe talking about concentration camps where they actually had concentration camps, right? I mean, that irony apparently is lost on her,
Yes.
And she's talking about a country that liberated the concentration camps, and she's talking about a guy, who has a absolute record of preventing. Like even right now, he's fighting against the deaths in the Ukraine for both countries. So you can't absolutely just dispel the will of compassion by Donald Trump because you want it to be a concentration camp and you hope that goes viral, using that phrase. This is despicable. And the reason that she even exists is because of a strategic and tactical error in Jacksonville where they were killing their own. And that infighting in the Republican Party in Jacksonville led to the rise of this nut job who is trying her best to look as crazy as Cat Lady Nikki.
Yeah, and she's doing a good job of it, John. But many Republicans feel like she needs to do something about this. That this is exactly wrong, including the Duval legislative delegation. They're demanding an apology from the Jacksonville mayor over this comment. These members of Duval County legislation are absolutely demanding an apology from her. I don't know if they're going to get it, but anyway, the delegation is skipped ahead. Oops. Republican State Representative Dean Black, Jessica Baker, Wyman Duggan, Keon Michael, and Republican State Senator Clay Yarborough. They called on Deegan this week to retract her statement and apologize to the Jewish community at a time when she was supposed to be representing the interest of Jacksonville abroad at taxpayer expense, no less. Mayor Deegan instead chose to make inflammatory statements that tarnished Jacksonville's image on the international stage. Instead of elevating Jacksonville, Deegan has embarrassed our city, showing a lack of judgment that fails to reflect the integrity and leadership of our community deserves. And I agree 100% with that.
Yeah, that's 100 is exactly right. She's there on taxpayer money making ideological statements, essentially endorsing against the candidate, not endorsing Kamala Harris per se. At least I didn't hear the whole interview, but she was basically endorsing against the candidate, and that is a huge problem. So, I mean, if there's an ethical violation, somebody could file an ethical violation against her for campaigning on taxpayer dollars.
Yeah, and I hope they do. They should. At least the taxpayers there in Jacksonville.
I did, and they're absolutely right. That's a great statement, and I'm surprised that Randy Fine hasn't condemned her also, right? Yeah. Concentration camps is not supposed to be used as a political. It's such a heinous part of history that you're not supposed to use it as a joke, right? Now, I would imagine that she wouldn't be using slavery as a joke, right?
Yeah.
She wouldn't make a slavery joke. So why would she make a concentrate? It means that, I mean, maybe she has a problem with Jews or something. You never know. But certainly you wouldn't make light of slavery. You don't make light of those things. You treat them with respect. And
that's the
certainly
thing, John,
failed
is
to do that.
that these people, especially the Democrats right now, they will use terms that incite violence, that incite people to
all day
do
long.
Things they wouldn't normally do. Try and
all day
make
long.
Trump look like the worst human being on planet Earth. And it's just not true. And it leads to these things like these assassination attempts, like the fighting that's going on, the divisions
absolutely.
in our country that are happening right now. She should be ashamed of herself.
Yes, absolutely.
All right,
right.
So Orange County, John, is hoping that voters will give another yes vote on a half-cent sales tax. And
man, these half-cent sales taxes, my lord.
It's always a half cent. It's funny that half cent doesn't exist, but anyway, the Orange County School Board's half-cent sales tax is up for a 10-year renewal after an effort to continue a program that has renovated 136 old schools and built 65 new ones since it began more than 20 years ago. First approved in 2002, the half-cent sales tax brings in about $350 million per year that the school district uses to replace aging roofs and air conditioning units, update technology and security, rebuild old campuses, and construct new schools in fast-growing areas such as Apopka, Horizon West, and Lake Nona. Half of the revenue generated from the half-cent sales tax is paid by tourists and visitors, Dick Batchelor said. Also, for the first time, Orange County Republicans have endorsed this sales tax.
I could care less who endorses a sales tax increase unless somebody is at 100% positive, sure that they have not wasted any money, that they've been good stewards of the money. I would not ever vote for a tax increase. Here's the problem. We have these in Osceola County all the time. They're never used well. They're abuses of the citizens. These citizens mean well by voting in a tax. Oh, we're going to help the schools, or we're going to do this, or we're going to do that. And then at the end of the day, they don't use the money for what they say they do, or the intentions behind it are wrong. And I'll give you an example. You passed a sales tax here. Our construction budget went to $1 billion almost, right? And that $1 billion is what? It's basically feeding the system of political contributions. All these companies are giving away to PACs and whatever, and it comes back to these politicians who are approving all these construction jobs. Construction is infamous for contributing money into the campaign. And I'm not saying that they're doing anything wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. That's their First Amendment right as a corporation. That's their First Amendment right as people. They can absolutely go and they can advocate on their behalf and advocate for their wishes, and they want these constructions. And construction is a great industry that gives great jobs and great careers and great opportunities. The problem is that when the politicians are bad, it makes everything down the road bad. So even these great companies that give to a bad politician because they have to feed the lives and the families of the people who work in those companies, you're creating a bad thing. And then you're staining the reputation of people who are trying to contribute in a legal way to a good cause, to do the right thing. They give to charity, they give to the education foundation, they do this, they do all the right thing. But then it's represented by a politician who is corrupt and who just feeds himself these campaign contributions, and then they make it impossible for the community to rectify a problem by removing this person, right?
Yeah.
And then these companies are perpetuating the problem because they're supporting these people because now they have to, right? Now that you've done the civic thing of you supported your candidate, you got them in, they turn into a dirtbag when they're in office, and now you can't say no, right? You can't say no to Ricky Booth anymore. The guy's a total dirtbag. He's a moron behind the dais. But what happens? You can't say no. Now you can't say no. Can you say no to Brandon Arrington? Everybody who will ever have a contract before the county is now terrified that if I say no to Brandon Arrington, well, I mean, then forget it, because that guy is known to be corrupt, right? Like the entire community assumes that everything he does is corrupt, right? The guy brings a ton of disgrace to the community because he's so corrupt. He gives his father, his own father gets county contracts, right? But we have to give it to him now because we gave to him 16 years ago. So we have to continue giving, otherwise they're going to hold it against us. And as a business owner, you can't prevent that. So to me, that's the real problem here, is that it creates institutions that are like quasi governmental relationships, and it's not good for us. It's not good for the community.
I'm really surprised to see that Orange County Republicans are advocating for this sales tax. That's Aaron Huntley, right?
I mean, I don't know. Here's they are getting plenty of money. The schools have plenty of money. What they're doing is building metropolis campuses, which are not proven to be better for students, right? If it's about what the students want, instead of basically what we're doing is doubling down on an education system which is not providing results for our community. So we have all these students, but we can't get them to read above 50% proficiency, right? Like we can't get 50% of our kids to read at grade level. So why are you building these metropolis schools instead of building or revisiting how you can best deliver education, right? What if instead of building one $200 million college campus like high school, you build 100 satellites, right? You have 5 teachers in each, and kids can come to any of those satellites and get completely educated and get that one-on-one time with teachers. If that were cheaper, I'm not saying that it is, I haven't studied it, but if that were cheaper and if that were more effective, why wouldn't we do that?
Yeah.
Because there's no money. There's no money in building that out, right? That doesn't require 15 lobbyists making $1 million each a year to dole out the contracts to make that happen, right? So that's why that doesn't happen. That's why do we have a $200 million college-like campus? Well, because too many people make money and careers out of that. And you can't blame them. That's their job. I was in the construction business, right? I was a specialty contractor. Would I take a job for a school district putting up signs? Absolutely, I would. But that's also what's wrong with our school industry. It's that instead of feeding the minds of our students, it's feeding the minds. It's feeding the mouths of the people who subsist from the government dollar.
Yeah. True.
So I would vote no. You got to force the government to contract. You have to force it. The government's not going to willingly contract. It's for the people to determine that they will force the government to act with less until they go broke if they don't reduce their spending and reduce their spending and reduce their spending. And the Constitution demands that they're going to continue to provide the service regardless. And then what happens is that the bad superintendents leave, good, innovative superintendents come in, they do more with less until you find the balance. Just my opinion.
Absolutely. All right, John. So before we go to Osceola County, we have this important message from Jim Trouts.
According to a Florida state law, a mailing envelope may not bear any indication of the political affiliation of an absentee voter. But Channel 9 confirmed this is not the first time the county has violated the law. Arrington says it was the vendor's fault.
The buck stops here.
Arrington says it was the vendor's fault.
Paid and approved by Jim Trouts, Republican candidate for Osceola County Supervisor of Elections.
Oops.
Come on, guys.
I'm going to have to change the voice on that because that person's not there anymore and hasn't been for a while. But anyway.
Well, listen, I want to comment on that, on the ad there. This supervisor of elections, you know what? I get a ton of complaints. I mean, a ton. I've had so many people reach out to me, ask me, hey, who do I vote for? I don't have my ballot. Where do I get a sample ballot? There are people throughout the entire county, tons of them. Even today, I had teachers call me, come to me, speak to me, see me, intercept me in the hallway while I was at the school district today, asking me where their sample ballots is and what's going on with that. These people, this supervisor of elections is breaking down right in front of us in the middle of their own election. And if Osceola County rewards this absolutely horrendous display of irresponsibility by electing Mary Jane Arrington again to a supervisor of elections, I just don't know if I even want to live in this county anymore. It is an absolute crime. Literally, she has violated state statute in the process of executing her task, her responsibility, twice with the same thing. On 2 different occasions, twice, not twice like on one occasion, 2 separate occasions where she did the same thing. And she should have been pulled from office and she needs to be recalled at least. Yeah. This is an absolute this is why elections are so bad. This is why people don't vote in high numbers here, because there's problems like this. People have not received their sample ballots. From what I understand, that's a requirement that should have been met that was missed. People had their party printed on the outside of the envelopes when they received their ballots in the last election cycle. I was one of them. I saw that. It was on my envelope on the outside. You could see actually through the little clear envelope that what my party was and so on. And she lied about it on TV. She told us that it was the vendor's fault, and it was not, in fact, the vendor's fault. It was her fault. The vendor came out with a written explanation saying that she had 5 opportunities to correct her mistake because they printed exactly as she sends it. She sent the wrong thing. They printed it as they did it, and she had 5 opportunities to correct it, and she did not.
That's the thing,
And-
John. That's the thing that she does. Every time
That's
she
what you
makes
do.
a mistake, she blames someone else. You know, with
Yes.
that instance that you're talking about, she blamed the printer. With the sample ballots not going out on time, she blamed the United States Postal Service. And we just got our sample ballots this past Monday. That's when we got them. But they were still late. They were still not on time, and she blamed the USPS. It's just ridiculous. This woman is 76 years old, and I'm not, you know, I'm sure there's plenty of almost octogenarians that have their full functions, can do a job and do it
I mean,
well.
she hasn't been her full function for 40 years when she was on the county commission.
Nope.
She's never, you know, she has never done such a great job at anything in Osceola County that she merits having a building named after her. And here she is destroying our election process, and she hasn't been removed from office. I don't understand it. I don't understand why the governor has not plucked her from that office. He should have plucked her a long time. We have Glenn Gilzine. In Orange County, we have Glenn Gilzine. Glenn decided not to run for supervisor of elections, right? He could have plucked somebody like he could have plucked her and put somebody like Glenn Gilzine, who Glenn Gilzine himself said, I'm not going to run again. I'm not going to run for this. And put somebody like Glenn Gilzine. Glenn Gilzine has been a blessing upon the elections of Orange County. He's done such a great job. Within minutes of being there, he came up with new policies and new innovative ideas, and he improved the office. Yeah. And we have not heard a single issue about elections in Orange County. Not a single issue. And it's much larger than Osceola County. The lady here, she's been in the job for 16 years, and she can't get it right for one election cycle? And yet she has not been plucked? What is going on? Why is it that the state itself is protecting Osceola County from change? It's a huge, it just reeks of corruption, and that the uniparty type of atmosphere here is begging the state to stay out of Osceola County because they got other bigger plans that involve a ton of money, and they can't deal with any kind of transformative power, you know, or anything like that. It has to, you know, you got to keep everything stable. And I think that the state may be honoring that for some reason, as opposed to coming down and, you know, giving the citizens of Osceola County a fair chance to decide their fate.
Over 20 years, John, if you include her time as a county commissioner, over 20 years on the taxpayer's dime. And 16 years with her son.
Yeah.
So their family has been profiting off the backs of the Osceola County taxpayer for
and her daughter-in-law, Cruella
decades.
DeVille.
Yep.
And then Cruella DeVille. And these are not qualified people. Cruella DeVille or Kristen Arrington, she doesn't even have a degree. She has an AA, I think, right? But she doesn't have a college degree, but she like passes off when she sends her mailers. Oh, I went to college here. I went to this. I went to this. She's constantly inflating because they have no real job. Brandon Arrington. Well, I don't know that he's ever had an actual real job. Everybody that knows him from when he was a child says that he was worthless as a child, as almost as worthless as he is now as a commissioner.
Oh,
so you got to wonder why it is that these people are protected in Osceola County. Yeah. And it's not like the people here favor by, the polls have shown that these are not people that are liked, or appreciated as leaders. How they win elections. Well, the first thing that we have to do before we can believe that they're winning elections honestly is to get rid of Mary Jane Arrington.
That's it right there. All right, John. So things are getting wild over in Kissimmee. This is positive Osceola County's headline, not ours. All right. So Kissimmee mayor candidate and convicted domestic violence offender John Cortez loses control and threatens violence at the voting polls. Caution anyone who is sensitive to curse words or small children. Before we play this video, we're going to play it now. There's a lot of cursing in it.
That's asshole, all right? Right now, you're a fucking asshole. You got arrested. You made my wife feel like shit. My daughter. I got arrested solo. You got arrested. I got arrested. This attitude. Yeah, you still have my attitude. I should have busted your fucking ass. That's my attitude.
You still have the violence.
Aggressive. They're all aggressive.
John, you still have the violence. I said I wanted to bust his ass. Yes, I said it.
This is the abusive behavior you want from your mayor.
I'm going to show you abusive behavior.
Abusive. Stop.
Abusive behavior.
Stop.
I'm not afraid of you, bro.
Stop.
You ain't working.
You're abusive too. Stop it. Deja de ser abusador.
Don't worry
Stop.
about it.
This is Lisandra campaign. She's abusive.
This is what.
And she's sitting there saying nothing to her husband.
Nobody should touch a woman and a child like you.
Oh, kiss my ass.
You heard him. He admitted to punching his daughter. That violent outburst was by John Cortez. He's running for mayor of Kissimmee.
Wow.
So let me before we kind of like talk about it. So I want to disclaim. Look, people who run for office. The reason I ran. This is what made me feel that I could run for office. Right? Is that I had a friend who he interned at the Senate a long time ago, and I said, "What made you feel that you could even run?" Because he also ran for office. And he was like, "Oh, I was there. I interned, and these people aren't better. They're not smarter. They're not faster. Whatever. They put their pants on one leg at a time, just like you do." And I realized how true that was. Right. That's why I'm always super irreverent with these politicians, because in my mind as a child, I thought these were like the cream of the crop. People who ran for office were the cream of the crop. They were the smartest. They were the most moral. They were the people with the most integrity. They were the smartest. That was my impression. 5 minutes of being elected, I realized that they were all morons, that the vast majority of them are corrupt, that they have very little integrity, that they have very little interest in the public. They're all out for careers. If you look at the school board, it's the worst example, right? Especially our school board. So the reason I say that is because keep in mind, this paints a candidate in a terrible light, right? This is a terrible light, and it's embarrassing. And I'm sure that John Cortez regrets losing his cool in this video and whatever. At the end of the day, I know John Cortez. He's a nice guy. I'm not going to say anything. I don't know about the thing. I never read the report. He's a nice guy. Okay. He's not a bad man. He's not a bad human. Now, whether this behavior impacts how you vote is up to you. His opponent, Jackie Espinosa, is a good person. Right? A lot of people have come to me and they complain kind of like about the ads and whatever, but the fact that Jackie is also a good person. She's a good person, and I know her as a good person. The other people who are involved in all these races, I know them. I happen to know each and every one of them, and individually as humans, these are just normal people. These are good people. They're nice people. They're people who are much nicer personalities than me, right? The way that I am on the show is who I am, right? I can be abrasive and whatever. I just kind of say the things that I want to say. The only people that I would say I'm overly nice to is like children, or people who are vulnerable. So, but these are regular people. And to have expectations of politicians that you would not have of yourself is incorrect, because they just don't reach that. They just don't reach that. These politicians are not the people that you think that they are. They're all normal people. They do the same thing. They behave the same way that you do at home. They're maybe better at putting up a facade, but in my experience, they're no better than you are. That's why I get so pissed at how bad they are in Osceola County. And the reason I get so pissed is because these people like Ricky Booth and Brandon Arrington and Cheryl Grebe, who take advantage of the public, that really irks me, because I know they're no better. But so many people in Osceola County are absolutely overwhelmed and just they're intimidated by them. But there's no reason to be, because I guarantee you Brandon Arrington is not smarter than the average person in Osceola County. I guarantee you that he's not smarter than the average person. If you think that you're below average, chances are you can have a conversation with Brandon that he won't understand. So don't be intimidated by these people. Okay, they lack. And then these people in this video, okay, to transition back to this video, they're just regular people. So it's embarrassing. It's ugly. Whether you choose to vote for them or not over this video is up to you, obviously. But at the end of the day, these people are human. Make sure that you keep that in mind before you judge too harshly. This is a tough race. They pour everything they can. And then I'll finish with this. As long as Osceola County rewards the people who do negative ads the way that they have for Brandon Arrington, because that's the way Brandon Arrington, Ricky Booth, Erica Booth, the way that they've won their elections, Jose Martinez in this case, the way that they've won their elections is by doing negative ads. And as long as we reward them with election victories because of negative ads, then our campaigns, our elections are going to be full of negative ads, because this is a race where there's no crying, there's no leaving it, there's no complaining about it, there's no redo, that you have to leave everything on the field and go all out and you try to win. And people say, well, I'm not going to go negative. But if negative works, don't get in. And if you don't want to do it, don't get in. Don't get in the race. If you're not willing to go negative, don't get in the race unless you have so much money that all you can do is shoot positive over and over and over and over and over and over again, because your competitors will do negative on you. And the community of Osceola County has rewarded the people that do negative ads. So until you stop rewarding them with election victories, you're going to continue to get that.
Well, Jon,
I did not do negative ads.
It's like you said, we don't know that they're actually winning until we replace Mary Jane Arrington. That's number one. Number two,
yeah, true.
You know, knowing how politics is here in Florida and throughout the country, you should expect these things, especially if you have a history, you have a past, that these things are going to come to light in your campaign. John Cortez had no right to get in Jeremy Fetzer's face, just like Mike Horner had no right to get in your face. True. And John Cortez, it's a bad. He probably is regretting it right now because it's all over social media.
And I'm not excusing the behavior.
Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah,
I'm just saying that you know, him, Olga Carino, and Wade Choate have been going back and forth with Jeremy and Jackie on Facebook and other social media consistently and constantly. I see it, and it's like Olga Carino lost the primary. She endorsed John Cortez and came to his side to fight with him. I don't know why Wade Choate is involved, but they are constantly attacking and going after them. I don't know what led up to this confrontation, but also Lysandra Roman's husband got up there and challenged Jeremy Fetzer, and Jeremy was like, you know, I'm not afraid of you, but I'm not going to get involved. It's not worth it. And Lysandra Roman's sitting there not doing anything. It blows my mind how wild and intense things have gotten in Kissimmee. We saw almost the same things happening during the primary. You know, when you get involved in this, you have to expect that there are going to be low blows, that, you know, your past is going to come to light, and there's not much you can do about it. You have to sit back and take it like a big boy, and you can't put your hands on somebody. You can't.
Well, and you deserve it, right? Yeah. I mean, here's the thing: when you make mistakes and then you go for public office, people deserve the right to be able to question you on it.
Absolutely.
Because the rights here belong to the people who are voting for you, not to you, to your privacy, right? When you run for public office, you give up the right to privacy so that the people who are going to elect you to office can, you know, question you. Yeah. And that's their right. They're the ones that receive. You surrender your rights to them. You know, that's not I'm not making a legal opinion about that. I'm talking about just in general, that's my belief. And, you know, and I agree with you. I think that here's my point is, I guess, that people lose their temper all the time, right? So this is not something that's crazier than, you know, this is not the craziest thing we've ever seen. In St. Cloud, like we were joking about it, and we were like, man, you know, and first of all, Jeremy Fetzer clearly wasn't afraid, but he held his cool, right? If Jeremy Fetzer held his cool, then you should, hold on, bub. Oh, look at this. Here's the greatest reason in the world to fight for this country right here. That's beautiful, bub. I love it. Okay, go.
This is my trophy.
Okay, your trophy. So I just got it. So I got a trophy last night. I was awarded with a couple of trophies from the community, and I guess he made his trophy to look like my trophy.
He got his own trophy.
Yeah, he made his own trophy. Which is funny. So,
you know, John Cortez, being a prior elected official, should know all this.
You know, he should know better. He should know. I'm not excusing the behavior. I know he feels terrible. I'm just saying that he's not a bad guy, right? Now, I mean, it's up for every person to judge whether somebody who can't control their emotions necessarily. Because here's the thing, I would love to. There's a lot of things. Look, what's his face got into my name, right? The guy who supported the illegal sex trade, Mike Warner, he got into my face and he actually battered me, put his hands on me, and I still resisted the urge to put him on the ground, right? And so why? Because I knew that if I had put my hands on him, I would have suffered the consequences. So it was a premeditated control of my own behaviors at that time. So, I mean, I wasn't going to risk it. I knew I had him, so I wasn't going to risk it. So, I mean, everybody's responsible for their behaviors. And really what I'm saying is that things do get crazy. So here's the thing. I would prefer this kind of like ghetto action going on in Kissimmee, right? As opposed to in St. Cloud, we've had murdered bodies buried underneath the boats of the mayor of St. Cloud. Which is worse?
I can't argue with that, John. It is true. It is true. So I mean,
I'm not saying that the mayor had anything. I'm not making any speculations. I'm just stating the fact that they've been reported. Yeah. Right. That was his boat. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And the body of a murdered victim was found partially underneath the boat. Right.
From what I read, it was at the perpetrator's property. Yes, the boat, and that there was a part or something. I don't know.
Yeah. So which is worse, right?
But
like here's the thing.
That didn't come out of politics. That came out of personal situations, and then these people were tied to the mayor's church.
Well, but it's the same with this, right? Because this isn't coming out of politics either. This is somebody, they're talking about accusations of the past. And in the end, it's all about character, right? That's why it's pertinent to the public sphere, because it's our opportunity to judge the character of the people that we're voting for, right?
Right.
And
but it all came to light over politics.
Well, yeah, that's true. But is that worse than it coming to light via a news story covering a murder?
No,
right?
No,
it's not.
This is the thing. We'll see if the news media picks this up, because I haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen it on 6,
Me either.
9,
Surprisingly enough, you would think that they would like this kind of juicy, gossipy stuff, right?
Yeah.
But my point is this: when you're a voter, and like I said, I'm not excusing. It feels like I may sound like a little bit in defense of John Cortez, and that's not what I'm doing at all. I'm not rendering an opinion on that.
Yeah.
What I'm doing is telling the voter, you are responsible. By your vote. Your vote is an act more serious than I think most Americans take. Your vote is not going out there just I'm going to check this box for my ideologies. I get the sticker and then move on. No, you're literally guiding the country by choosing the people who will lead us. And the character of those people is exactly what our country turns into, because they're the ones that get away with it. And the ones that we elect, like the former representative Hawkins, that guy was absolute hot, disgusting, stinky trash. And he got elected to office, right? Yeah. And then he got reelected. And that's exactly what. And then we provided him with this, as a community, we provided him with sufficient cover after pretending he was a cop or impersonating a cop or whatever that situation was, for the governor to then give him an endorsement after the fact. Yeah. Right? So we need to stop protecting these politicians, because the things that they do behind closed doors in dark rooms is the real disgusting behavior, not this guy losing his temper. That's bad, and it's embarrassing. And maybe I have confidence, maybe I don't have confidence in his behavior, but at the end of the day, it's what they do behind the curtain that really offends me more, only because I've been behind the curtain and I've watched the depravity with which these politicians act.
True, man. All right, so moving on, John. But that was a crazy video. It was wild. All right, so Osceola County is hoping that voters will embrace a land conservation tax, and this is nothing new, John. This thing's been around for a while, and it's funny that whenever they bring these stories up, they have these serene pictures. Like, this is what you're getting for your tax dollars. This is what your tax
looks like.
Yeah.
You in a canoe that you'll never ride.
So after 20 years of paying this special property tax for land conservation, Osceola County voters are going to vote on this again in November, whether they want to keep doing it, and I hope they don't. This tax-funded program has conserved 3,300 acres, county officials say, including important lands such as Shingle Creek Regional Park, Brownie Wise Park, where the county plans to build the region's first Pulse Memorial, and Lake Runnymede Conservation Area, another park, which plays a critical water management role because its wetlands absorb excess rainfall. Supporters say the program helps manage growth, control congestion, and reduce flooding. Common concerns for county residents, but opponents say they have lost trust in the county's land conservation efforts after it allowed a toll road to slice off a 160-acre piece of once protected split oak forest. And, the funny thing about this, John, is you see the county mentioning Brownie Wise Park. What was the other? The other one was a park. Lake Runnymede Conservation Area, which is also a park. So what is the county telling us? Is the county telling us that if we don't support this tax, or if we didn't support this tax in the first place, that they would sell off the land of these parks to be developed? And the only reason why we have these county parks is because of this tax that they want to continue giving. But, that seems to be the case. Like we talked about in the pre-show, you said, and you brought up Mac Overstreet and what's happening there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a perfect example. Mac Overstreet, what were they going to do with that park? That was supposed to be a park. It was, ready to be a park. It's been sitting there waiting for a park to be built on it. And instead, they tried to put a factory on top of it, on the lake that they're trying to clean up. They're getting millions of dollars to clean up the lake, and then they're going to put a polluting factory right on its shores. That's what they do. So do you trust the judgment of the county with this extra money? No. Here's what they want. They want these extra taxes because they want the flexibility to use other money in the general fund the way they want for their pet projects, to give themselves each $1 million to dole out. And then what happens with that money? Ricky Bobby ends up putting a stadium in St. Cloud so he can put his picture on top of the stadium. Cheryl Gree puts a 50-foot tall, $250,000 gay pride statue in the city. You have or in the county, in one of those parks that you mentioned, and that's what this money is going to. So should you be voting for this? Absolutely not. Do not give they're drenched in money. They don't know what to do with the money. That's why they can build. Why can you build a 50-foot statue that offends Christian because it's in the shape of a fish, but it's a gay pride statue? Why can you build that? Why would a county have money to build that? Because all of these extra little taxes that they get, including taxes that they just put on the last ballot, which was for education.
Yeah.
Listen, this is nothing but a way for them to provide themselves with more spending flexibility. We need the governments to contract and spend less. They took many years of infrastructure dollars and spent them in New York City, which is a road that nobody drives down practically. And why did they do that? Because that was their pet project, and that's the only thing that they support. These people have no idea how to run a county. They have no idea how to get from place A to place B. It's just a disaster, and you're giving them more money. No, it's a mistake. If you have a let's say that you have a son, and your son is a crackhead, right? And the kid smokes everything that you give him. Are you going to just throw cash down his throat every day? No. Where our county commissioners are a bunch of crackheads. That's how they make decisions. It's the same amount of good quality judgment as a crackhead. And you should not be giving them more money. What we need to do is clean house, clean the record, insist that the clerk of court do a heavy audit of everything that has spent and how money has been spent, with a deep explanation to the county and to the people, and let them judge whether that's how we want to go forward or not. If that were to happen, I guarantee you that a lot of the faces around here would change.
Well, we can only hope, John. But it's funny that they're asking for people to continue this tax when the reality is that the county is swimming in money. Osceola County collects a record-breaking $81.6 million in TDT funds. And here's another picture they show you of, tourist attractions like Star Tours and stuff like that. But anyway, Osceola County collected a record number from 2023, a rebound from a slow summer for tourism that drew predictions of netting a loss. The bed tax, also known as TDT or Tourism District Tax, drew $81.6 million from October 2022 to September, a record collection despite softening in the vacation home rental sector, but buoyed by international travelers. The increase in TDT collections was up 14% compared to the previous year's collection of $76.6 million, which relied on vacation home rental income, a typical trend for the county. Osceola County Commissioner and Tourism Development Council Board member Viviana Janer applauded the recovery. That's a number to be proud of, Janer said. TDT funds are generated through a 6% tax.
Wait. That's a number to be proud of. She had nothing to do with that. The county has nothing to do with it. I mean, what now the county's taking credit for the weather?
Oh, yeah, they're taking credit for their tax.
Are they so dumb that they think that they have an impact on that? People love to come here because it's beautiful weather, because it's hot, because people can go swimming here all year round practically. What is she talking about? It has nothing to do. There's nothing to be proud of. That's just a matter of, here's the thing. This is why these people give themselves pats on the back, because they take awards for things like weather.
Yeah.
I mean, this is craziness.
Well, these funds are generated through a 6% tax on any short-term rentals within the county, which includes hotels, motels, and Airbnb or similar rental options. Vacation home rental income makes up slightly over half of the county's TDT collections, which is rare for a county, Minnick said, whoever that is. So, they're swimming in money, John. They've got plenty of it. And yes, this is nothing that they can take credit for. This is just something they've tacked on because we are a tourist area. So, anyway.
Here's the thing. I'm not opposed to the TDT, and I'm not opposed to a lot of the things when it comes to TDT. I just, this is... they're swimming in money.
Yeah.
They're swimming in money. They're getting a ton of tax money. They're getting a ton of ad valorem money. They have money coming out of their ears. And if they were responsible at all, the problem, here's why infrastructure is not catching up with the amount of money and why expenditures are not matching the infrastructure needs, because they're trying to control. You've seen this, right? You've seen it yourself. Imagine having like more grapes in your hand that you carry and they slip through your fingers, right? They roll over the edges of your palm. And that's what's happening. The control, all the things that anybody who's normal, and Don Fisher apparently has absolutely zero talent in this business. But so, it's great. They're falling all over the table because you're holding too many in your hand. So they have so much money that they're putting up gay pride statues in part here. But they don't want control. They just want money to keep coming in, because no matter how bad you are, as long as money is coming in, and the government is the only thing that can be this bad and continue to survive, as long as money's coming in, it covers up all their mistakes of the idiocy with which they lead. So you got to say no, because what it does is it exposes the mistakes and it makes you aware of what the shortcomings of the county are. You don't want to say, well, I'll give them the money because at least it will improve traffic. Oh, it will do. No, all those things will happen regardless. No. All of those things will happen regardless, except that you don't keep throwing cash into the pocket of a crackhead.
Absolutely. So, John, something that was noticed and was quite troubling. This should have probably been in the state section of the show, but it pertains to some of our Osceola County candidates. So, going through the Orlando Sentinel's YouTube, you can look at the thumbnails of their videos where they had their debates or candidate forums. They went ahead and did their endorsements, and they endorsed Mary
I'm sure
Jane
they were
Arrington,
really
if
credible.
you can believe that. They endorsed Mary Jane Arrington for her experience and for the fact that she doesn't believe that there are any issues with our election process. And then they said the same thing for Alan Hayes, who is also one of those who comes out and says, oh, there's no problem in the elections. There's no cheating. There's no rigging, which is a lie. But I wanted to bring these pictures up of these thumbnails from the YouTube channel for the Orlando Sentinel. And look at this. You tell me what they have in common. First one. There is Colonel Thomas Shalafo, a Republican, on the left, and Darren Soto, a Democrat, on the right. Okay, that's one. Here's another one. There's Kristen Arrington, a Democrat, on the left, and Jose Martinez, a Republican, on the right. Here's another one. Mary Jane Arrington on the left, and Jim Trotz on the right. And finally, Maria Reveles on the left and Paula Stark on the right. Now, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but it looks to me like they use the most unflattering photos for the Republican candidates and the best photos they could find, well, from those videos for their Democrat counterparts. I mean, what do you think, John?
So, as a recovering journalist, a long time ago, one of the stories of the century from the trial of the century was the O.J. Simpson trial. And I think it was Time magazine printed this picture in their magazine of O.J. Simpson. But when they laid it out, it didn't look menacing enough. So what they did was they artificially darkened his skin to make him look more menacing. And it was a tremendous controversy. It was accepted all over the journalistic world that was so incredibly irresponsible of them. It was such malfeasance on their part and such a horrendous betrayal of the responsibility of journalism. And here you have multiple charges by the Orlando Sentinel, who apparently is picking and choosing it. In fact, it looks like if you pull another one of those, it doesn't matter which one you pull up, pull any of them up.
Okay. Hold on, I got to take you off. Hold on.
Yeah.
I forgot. It's like, where am I? Okay.
So it doesn't matter that, and let's point out all of this is like one of those pictures where it's like point out the differences, right?
Yeah.
So she is smiling and Paula has a frown on her face, technically, right? Like where the edges, the points of her lips are pointed downwards. Okay. So that's one, the expression. One is smiling, one is not. The color correction.
Yes.
She has great color at that time, and Paula Stark is blown out.
It almost looks like they grayscaled her picture, John.
And it's far more pixelated, right? Okay, go to the next one. Go to any of the other ones. Okay, so same thing. Is it coincidence? He's got a strange expression on his face where he's leaning back in his neck. I know him. This is not what he looks like.
Right.
All right? And this is not his posture. This is him in movement, in a freeze frame, in a negative posture for the moment where he's changing position, I would imagine.
Yep.
And she happens to be smiling with great color, right?
Yep.
Not great color on her skin. First of all, when you see her in person, I hate to speak about women's looks, but she looks like a cadaver from 1980 that was dug up and put into the suit, okay? So that's just the bottom line facts. But here, they look like they gave her a glamour shot.
Yes.
And it's just an act of dishonesty. But he's not color corrected. In fact, he's blown out. No. Right? Let's go to another one. Okay. So this looks like a mugshot on his part. Now, again, she also looks like this is a mugshot for her. It's absolutely horrendous. This is the best that they could do for Cruella.
Yeah, I don't
DeVille.
think there's much you can do for Cruella.
You can't do anything for this Cruella DeVille person. But nonetheless, she's smiling. He looks like it's a mugshot, right?
Let's look at this
now,
other one.
Wait, put them back up. Put them back up.
Oh, okay.
And look at the color.
No.
She's soft. His color is harsh.
Yeah.
Okay, now go to the next. Now they like him because he also said that there's no problems with our elections.
Really? Mm-hmm. I didn't watch that one, so.
Okay, so that was in their endorsement of him.
Oh, okay.
So they said that they endorsed him because he said there wasn't problems with our elections.
Wow.
Now, same thing. His color's warm. He's smiling. Colonel Shalafo is in a weird a moment of transition in his positioning.
Yeah.
right? That's not what he looks like. He doesn't look like a worm. He's not always looking. It's not like he's not looking up. He's not rolling. He doesn't roll his eyes. This is not what his facial structure looks like. This is an intentional sabotaging. This is a torpedoing of these candidates. That's what this is. And this is shameless. It's It's just as bad as when they darkened the skin on O.J. Simpson. Nothing worse.
No.
Except that Darren Soto does look like a worm in this picture. Just like
I don't think there's
worm.
much you can do for him either, John.
This is an absolute intentional frame choosing. This is a video that they're choosing from. They could have picked. I guarantee you, within 5 minutes, I can give you 10 better images where both of them look equally favorable to the camera.
Yeah.
And they had to go through those to pick the worst one. In order to get these, they had to pick the worst. And that is an absolutely, that's something that a villain does. It's something that a cheater does. The Orlando Sentinel should be ashamed of themselves. And they should write an apology to the conservative candidates who they torpedoed by doing this act. And then they should withhold their endorsements, and they should make in that letter of apology, admit that that they did this intentionally. Because there's absolutely no way that the YouTube clip that automatically clips these things pick them unless YouTube has it in their algorithm to make the conservative look bad.
Actually, John, you can upload your own thumbnails.
Yes,
so
I know.
You can put your own thumbnail together and upload it as the thumbnail for your video, and I believe that's exactly what they did.
I think that's exactly what they did. And if it had been by accident that YouTube, let's say it was YouTube's fault, then a responsible and respectable organization would have uploaded this screen grab that would have been far more appropriate and held them both in equal footing.
If you're impartial, you would have a nice photo for both candidates.
Absolutely.
Not just
absolutely.
Make one
This
is
the act of an absolutely irresponsible, immoral partisan involved in the race.
Yeah. And you can't blame a candidate when they're hesitant to go do the Orlando Sentinel interview or Orlando
because
Sentinel.
They've proven that they're garbage, and that not only do they not have any integrity, but they have no intention of you winning. We already know who they're going to endorse. We already know that they're going to endorse to the left of every candidate. So that now, on top of the endorsement that you already know, but you do it so that you have access to their readers, then they're going to paint you in this light. That's horrendously. That's a terrible. Here's the thing: just like a doctor is not supposed to do any harm, a journalist is not supposed to lie. That's what this is. They're creating the narrative. They're not telling the story.
Yeah, no, that's true, John. All right, John. So you remember a couple of months ago we were talking about the Story Road residents out in the St. Cloud Manor. They were praising Ricky Booth.
We were pissed.
Yeah,
you and I were pissed. We were like, it's you guys are giving credit to this guy so prematurely. We've seen it before. Let us tell you what's going to happen in the future. But people couldn't contain their emotions on the victory, on the short-lived victory.
And it was very short-lived, John, because they received this notice about a week ago, and it says here that it's a notice for a community meeting about Story Road single-family development. A community meeting is being held to provide information and to answer questions about a comprehensive preliminary subdivision application. This is a request for approval of a preliminary subdivision plan for Story Road single-family developments consisting of 246 dwelling units and 23 tracts on approximately 62 acres. And this is not going up for a vote yet. This is just a notice for a meeting. This is so that they can say they had the meeting. And this is so that they can say that they answered the community's questions, that they care about what the community wants, and they want to abide by the community. I can tell you that this community does not want anything of this nature. And here it goes again. Now the thing is, this thing is probably going to go up for a vote after the election, and we'll see how the votes fall after the election. But the thing that prevented it the last time was Ricky Booth made the motion to kill it. Brandon Arrington and Peggy Chowdhury jumped on that, and they sided with Ricky Booth. But after the election, will they do the same thing if they're reelected? So, Brandon Arrington has to be reelected, and Peggy Chowdhury needs to be reelected. If you believe some of the things that are out there, Peggy Chowdhury is behind Desvani Martinez. So I guess we'll see.
Oh no, there's no way that's even real. There's no way. There's absolutely no way.
He's putting out there. He's got graphics on Facebook that say there are polls showing him winning.
Come on. I think I saw one that had like him at like 60-something% or whatever. Not for a second do I believe that. Believe me, I would love to see Peggy lose her race. Okay. But Peggy's a sad story. She was a commissioner that came in. She fought like crazy. She won. She did all the right things. She fought against the establishment. She's a leftist, but nonetheless, she was an independent person, and she kind of decided on her own. And then she I think beat Jose Alvarez in that race for district. And it was a brutal campaign, right? A brutal campaign, but she raised a ton of money. She fought extremely hard. She won. But it looked like that fight took the independence out of her, and she sold out so that she never had to fight like that again in her political career. That was my impression. And so she sold out, and she's been a sellout since. I'd be happy for her to lose, but I doubt that the effort of the campaign are gonna be. I mean, I just want to be honest. I would like for District 1 to win. I would like for the Republican in District 1 to win.
Absolutely.
But I think that those polls are not. I'm not about lying to our audience for the sake of who I want to win, right? And I think that this is a much harder race than that, and that's a completely unrealistic goal. And I don't think that it's credible, and I don't think that that's. I think that they're taking a page out of my playbook when I put that my poll, the results of our polls. The difference is I'm not the one that paid for the polls. They weren't my polls, and I did not doctor my polls to them higher than they were. My polls were high. That my polls were done prior to $300,000 being spent against me in negative ads, right? So that's a big difference. And that's not happening over there. She's not doing any negative ads against him because he's not even. I don't know that he's even causing a blip on the radar yet.
Right, she's not worried at all. She's not worried
at all. She's worried at all. So I don't know what campaign. Like I said, all the campaigning's being done to Democrats. But so I mean, I don't receive any of that.
I mean, I'll tell you this, John. Jose Martinez put out a ad on Facebook very similar to the Desvani Martinez ad that showed polls showing he's winning too, and it looked like maybe it was created by Desvani's team. I don't know, but
yeah, I think that they're working together, and and that way I think that was maybe a long-standing strategy to put like 14 Martinezes on the ballot, and hopefully that. All of their efforts would lead to the victory of one. I don't think that that's a valid strategy. I think that it may help, it may bump, but that's come on, that's not going to overtake a county's worth of, millions of dollars of expenditures through PAC money and so on. And I mean, that's a very rudimentary position and strategy. And it's, it's kind of like, you read a book that's about chess. You take the first page and then you go play the world's biggest grandmaster of chess, and you only use the first page of the book. That's not going to do it. I mean, they're not there. And none of these candidates are they're great people, right? They're good people. I mean, not all of them, maybe. I mean, I don't know. I don't know Desvani. I don't know him very well. I assume that he's a good guy. Okay. I don't like I don't like people who just do straight up attack ads and win on attack ads. So I'm not a big fan of the what's going on in District 25. It's just there's nothing for me to support there. In my opinion, I can't bring that. There's no integrity in that. When you're when you lie to destroy somebody on your own team, but then you don't have the balls essentially to go and attack the Democrat. So when you attack the Republican in the primary, but then you don't attack the Democrat in a primary, I think it's all fake, you know? And so when I look at the races and how they're being managed, to me, it doesn't look like they're real races. And that the fact that the Democrats are not campaigning in their normal way tells me also that they're not worried about it. So I speculate, or at least I have to suspect these are all fake runnings, right? These are all controlled by the uniparty, and everybody knows what's going to happen, and everybody's a winner at the end, whatever that means to that individual. Everybody wins something at the end, right? Yeah. It's like a piñata, right? The birthday kid gets the biggest, gets the biggest bunch of candy, and all the other kids and guests get a whole bunch of candy on the peripheral, right? Yeah. And so to me, it looks very staged. That's my opinion. So I'd like to see these seats turned, but I would like to see them turned with integrity and honesty, and not in the manner in which they are. And that may not be realistic at this point in time in Osceola politics, right? But that's what I'm holding out for.
Well, John, I think we're all holding out for that. We're all holding out that these seats flip, but
I mean, no, because the party leadership isn't. The party leadership kind of supported this, right? So, I mean, I think that a lot of the Republicans are, a lot of the true conservatives are. That's why I hold so many people, whether they like Trump or not, don't like Trump, or whether they agree with Trump or don't agree with Trump. At the end of the day, what they want is a reset of the system, because everybody feels disenfranchised by our current state of affairs in politics. Yeah. Right. So, I mean, this is all part of it.
Well,
and if you play into it,
that's the other thing, John, is shame on our county, and shame on the Republican Party of the county, because they put Republicans on the ballot, yes, but did they set them up for success? No.
No.
Did they help them to be good candidates? No. Did they help them and put them on a path to a strategy to win? No. No, not at all. We have some candidates right now that I have very little faith will win, because they haven't been good candidates. And even I've reached out to a couple of these people and said, I can help you. The FRA can help you. ACRA can help you. And nothing. You know what I mean? Crickets. And I don't know if that came from the executive committee that told them, no, don't deal with them, or what the deal was. But we have some candidates that I'm expecting to lose. I'm expecting that they will lose, because they haven't done anything. They haven't done enough. And there's a lot that needs to be done here in Osceola County if we're going to flip it. A lot.
At the end of the day, you have to give people a reason to vote, right? And you would hope that, usually at the end of the day, it's like, why? Why are you running? And if you're running to serve Jesus Christ through service to your government, I think that that's a possibility. And those are the people that we're really looking for, right? But if you're looking for a vanity project, if you're looking for, you seek power, if you're looking for fame or glory and all that stuff, well, then you're no different than the people who are there now, essentially. And the way that you run has a correlation to that, to what your intentions are and what your purposes are, in my opinion, right? The way that you run your campaign is one. So, and I'm not talking about just attack ads, because I've attacked my enemies, right? The people who I did not want to win. Erica Booth, I spent attack ads on that. Why did I do that? Because I was supporting Scotty Moore, and because Erica Booth was a fraud of a school board member who lied to the entire community, left and right, voted with Democrats the vast majority of the time. They can send me all the cease and desist letters that they want, and they have. I don't care, because the proof is in the record.
Yeah.
The proof is in the record of what happened, right? She campaigned as a parental rights person and then voted against parental rights policy. So she was who she was. She created a record for herself. So yeah, I was going to fight with her. Why? Because she completely pulled the carpet out from underneath the community. I'm not campaigning against her.
Yeah.
So, and I'm going to tell the truth.
That's a proven rhino.
Yeah. The differences between my attacks were that my attacks were telling the truth about politicians and what they were doing, versus attacks that meant nothing, that had no other purpose or intention but to manipulate the voters into thinking the way that the sender wanted them to think. And that's the difference between attack. Telling the truth about your opponents is there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
You know, but doing it for no other reason than to manipulate for votes, there is something wrong with that. And you can't have good intentions through bad means, right? Like you can't teach somebody, hey, I'm going to teach this guy, I'm going to give him some hard love, but it's going to be through robbing him. No, tough love doesn't come through mugging somebody.
No.
So, you know, I mean, and that's what these politicians are, right? And the vast majority of them, and I'm not talking about this current group of politicians. I'm just saying in general, right?
Yeah.
Like some of them seem like very nice people. But I haven't seen the effort in order to actually show that you're really laying it on. And I'll tell you, look, the perfect example is my wife.
There's one. And
yeah,
that's Jim Trouts.
Jim Trouts. Jim Trouts is an exception. Jim Trouts is an exception. It is an exception, right? I think my wife is an exception.
Yeah.
Right? You know, running for city commission.
Yeah, she's been working hard.
She's working hard. They see everybody's commenting. Oh, she's walking. She's walking. She's walking. She's walking. Everybody's seeing her all over the neighborhood. She's met everybody in the city. You know, so that's the difference.
Yeah.
She's not getting and she doesn't get involved. She didn't send any negative ads against Carlos Alvarez, nor did I. I didn't have anything negative to say about Carlos Alvarez. Right? I don't. You know, I can have my own opinions about his effectiveness. But nothing that merits me putting a postcard together that says he did this, and you as a voter need to know this and take this into account.
Yeah.
Right? There was nothing. So why? So then the challenge becomes beat him with your work, show off your character of who you are, and win your race.
Yeah.
My opponent didn't do that. Right? And a lot of the people who are running right now are not doing that. What they're doing is attacking, manipulating, using false pretenses to trick people into voting. And so, you know, and I didn't do that in my race. I didn't send out negative. I could have. I had a lot of people coming to me saying, hey, send out these negative ads, do this, say this, whatever. I had a lot of people, a lot of former employees of my opponent who came to me and said, hey, I know this, a bunch of embarrassing personal stuff.
Wow.
That I imagine would have really hurt him. But I'm not going to put that out there because that's not for the voters. That's not to be taken. I mean, you could make an argument that the voters should have that information, but that's not a political move. But now that the primary is over, what efforts are we seeing? Waving a sign on a weekend?
That's the thing. That's the thing, and that's something that we've talked about in different groups, John, is that we have not seen an effort put forward. We have not seen mailers. We have not seen ads. We have not seen very much of anything from the state party, from the local party, from the candidates themselves. And it's almost like we're giving up. And this is not the time that you give up, especially this election where everything's on the line. We're expecting record turnout, especially for President Trump. You don't give up. You know, even if you think that all hope is lost, you don't give up.
Well, I mean, I would say another exception. That's not even the
case for some of these candidates. Some of them, yes, absolutely. Some of them that you're talking about, yes, this is a coordinated effort to give up. But some of these candidates,
a coordinated effort to give up. That's a great way to put it.
You know,
that is a great way.
Some of these other candidates, John, they just were not set up for success. They were asked to run, or told you should run, and then were given nothing. You know, we're going to give you money to qualify, and now you just handle the rest.
Yeah.
And
I'll tell you, so you're right. Jim is working relentlessly, right? You have Paula Bronson, right? Paula Bronson has also been working her butt off. Paula and Andy have really been working hard to win that seat. They stayed competitive. They've been fighting hard over there. That's a tough race. Now it's even in a two-man race, it's really hard. That is a hard-fought race. Whoever wins that race, I mean, you can make the argument that Ramsey got an unfair advantage in that race by the governor doing what he did, appointing him at the last minute, all that stuff, right?
Absolutely, so, but we know the connections there. We know why that happened.
That's all Ricky Booth. That's all the connections there. Exactly right. And Paula Bronson has been fighting like hell over there. Jim Trouts has been fighting like hell, right? Yeah. Fighting like hell. And you're right. We had to force Jim into that race. The Republican people pushed Jim. You know, I make fun of people all the time because politicians say, oh, they begged me to run. They carried me on their shoulders and brought me to the supervisor of elections to fill out my paperwork. And it's like, BS. Nobody cared whether you ran or not. This is you. You chose it. I never said that about myself. I always said, I knew when I was 10 years old, I wanted to run for office, you know? But in his case, in Jim's case, we did ask him to run. We pressured him into running. There were people, many people who were convincing. I was one of the first that said, hey, you would be really good at this job. You are qualified. You are a man of integrity. You're a man that demands respect and that is given respect and has respect throughout the community. You're a man that has achieved. You're a man that is just good. You would be really good for this position. The community would be honored to have you serve in this role.
That this is a man that can be trusted to do this job.
He's a man that can be trusted.
That we need somebody that can be trusted to do it.
He can be trusted by his enemies to fulfill the job.
Yeah.
To fulfill the role.
We don't have anybody right now that we can trust to do this job.
We don't. Right now, there's no trust in the office. But he's a man that can be trusted by everyone in the community to do the right thing. Yeah. Right? Even if it were against his friends. And if I lost a race with Jim Trouts as the supervisor of elections, I would be like, man, I should have worked harder. Let me go look and revisit my campaign. Yeah. All right? Because I know that Jim's not going to allow the cheating. I know that Jim is not going to cheat. And so but anyways, the point being that we did ask him, we almost forced him to take the role. We pressed it upon him as a conservative community because we needed a candidate. And everybody agreed that he was the guy. And then he was essentially abandoned. They gave thousands of dollars to 2 other candidates. They did not give him the same. And I don't understand that. Right? Excuse me for 1 second. I do not understand that. So how is that even feasible? And now, they at the same time, they watered down his volunteers so that they can help some other people. It was just a crazy mess. And I don't understand it. And like you said, it's like a planned giving up of the seats. Yeah. I don't know what it is. And I hope
they watered down his volunteers, but his race, his seat is the most important one this election. Locally.
It's the most consequential. Yeah. It's the most. There's no other seat that's as consequential. The Democrats already have the Senate seat, right? The House seats doesn't change the majority in the House, right? There's no other seat. The county commissioners are all going to win likely. So the one of most consequence, the tax collector and the property appraiser, those are not seats of consequence that we're feeling the need right now. The way, like the desperation to change, unlike Brandon Arrington's seat. Yeah. But Jim Trouts, it is. She should have been recalled. It's the opportunity seat. She should be recalled. She should have been removed by the governor. The Secretary of State should have been reprimanding her on a constant basis. He should be down here with a paddle for her.
Instead, he's filming videos with her.
Instead, he's filming videos for her on her behalf. So, and I don't know. I think that we've made our point strong enough, but it's the facts are the facts, man. I don't understand. What's the strategy behind that? Yeah. What's the strategy behind sabotaging the most important member of it's like, okay, you're going to be the quarterback. Here's your football. It's filled with lead. It makes no sense. It makes no sense.
Oh, well, I'm glad that that Jim and his wife Cindy are fighting like hell, and they have the ability to fight. They know what they have to do. He has a great team behind him. Not the party, although the party is behind him. I would say that, but not to the extent that some of us feel they should be. And we'll leave it at that so we can get to our final story. we went on for a little bit there.
Double-length show.
We do have one more story. This is
one more show, okay.
All right, so the city of St. Cloud is seeking a redevelopment partner for their site next to City Hall. And this is what we're talking about. Here's the picture, John. 2A is the one that's circled in red. That is the area. It is 2 city blocks, John, right next to City Hall. City Hall is to the right of 2A. And what this is going to be, well, this is the rumored parking garage. So the city issued a request for proposals to find a developer interested in buying or leasing nearly 2 acres in the heart of downtown next to City Hall as part of a public-private partnership. The property is west of City Hall on Massachusetts Avenue between 8th Street and 10th Street. The goal is to create a mixed-use development project that allows us to accommodate for our growing population, according to William Arce, procurement analyst for the city. The winning proposal will be unique and urban in character and design that complements the eclectic design and feel of downtown St. Cloud. There is nothing eclectic about downtown St. Cloud. The priority for the city is parking spaces, retail then residential, with multifamily units being a possibility for the project, according to the RFP documents. And this is the key right here. Parking spaces, retail, residential with multifamily units. In the future land use map, they want to build multifamily housing in downtown St. Cloud, all through downtown St. Cloud, medium and high density residential. So what they're envisioning, and you brought this up, John, was something like in downtown Kissimmee, where there will be retail storefronts along the parking garage, and that's the main thing they want here, is they want this parking garage, but they also want the retail and even maybe housing attached to this parking garage. And I don't know how many
Which means
spaces.
apartments.
Yeah, apartments. I don't know how many spaces they want in this parking garage, but the rumor from what I've heard on economic development is they want it to be at least 3 stories tall, possibly 4. And the thing that troubles me is the multifamily housing and the fear that the community has, and we talked about this on the last show, is the multi or the medium density and high density residential within the grid, which would be a nightmare for the grid. It would create the one problem that the grid has never had, which is traffic. And the grid has never had traffic. This would definitely bring traffic if they were to purchase properties down there, convert them to high density residential, and build 3-4 story apartment buildings in downtown or around the grid area of St. Cloud. Just a nightmare waiting to be happened. And the Florida Avenue residents, I feel really sorry for them because they're ground zero for all this.
So this piece of development, this project seems to make sense, right? Like, this is a growing city type of project. You need a parking garage downtown. You need something of this. You need a little bit of this. You need this may be an appropriate place for some apartments in a downtown like that, right? Where you're creating places for people to live, right, in downtown. So, it kind of works with the economy, whatever. The problem is, how much confidence do you have that they're going to pick somebody that doesn't have to sell their soul to the city, which is horrendous at making anything happen in any good way, right? If you just look at until they fix the problem, until they go to Cathcart and get the $20 million back that they spent, for the base of that asphalt street downtown, then they're always going to have to pay for that, right? They wasted $20 million of taxpayer money, of St. Cloud City resident money, on a waste. And now we're going to trust them to select what they're going to do there. They have a problem here. And I don't know. I mean, I hate to make any empty accusations. I don't know for a fact, but in my experience, right, or at least what I've seen on TV and movies, is whenever somebody is this bad at making something happen, there's normally a reason for it, like kickbacks or something like that, right? For example, imagine if Cathcart had given a kickback for the project that they did for $20 million, which they fumbled, and instead of being forced to pay, or instead of making a claim on the insurance to pay everything, they came to a settlement where Cathcart only paid $200,000 for the mistake, right? Of ruining all the streets downtown and ending up in the closure of, I think, 4 businesses. That's a disaster. You know, it's like giving FEMA an award, a second try, you know, and an award for the work that they've done in North Carolina, even though we're hearing words that the work that they've done in North Carolina is catastrophic.
Yeah.
So I don't have a lot of confidence in that. Their selection process is based upon the best for St. Cloud as opposed to the best in their own interests or in the interests of their benefactors.
Yeah, they're friends.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see how this goes. So anyway, long show tonight.
2 hours.
Yeah, we owed people a show because we didn't end up doing the Florida show last week. So we had a double show tonight. And yeah, 2 hours. And that's it. That's the show. And
Awesome.
I don't know. America Show is on deck. I don't know if we're going to do America Show tomorrow or if we're going to do America Show later on in the week. But
that's going to be a good one.
yeah, absolutely.
That's going to be a good one. Already the stories that are coming down are great stories, entertaining stories. It should be a ton of fun. So definitely join us for Unsanctioned America. Listen, we really appreciate you watching. We know it's a long show. We need to start breaking up these shows into little pieces. But we love you. We appreciate you. Thank you for everyone who came out last night and supported me on the school board. People like Chris Fontenot and Laura McAdams who came out, and Diane Knight, who was sick last night, but she sent me messages. The hundreds of people that sent me messages over the last couple of days. I love you. I appreciate you. I'm humbled by your support. The people who came and spoke to bring home the most importantly, that last victory at the end of the day, the chaplain program to our schools. I appreciate all of you, Pastor Alfred and your beautiful wife. You guys really had a huge impact. I am truly grateful to you. To all the students who came and spoke at that meeting, I encourage you, in fact, to go find, you can Google that meeting. Just Google Osceola County School Board meeting, October 22nd, YouTube, and it'll pop right up. It's not that long of a meeting, so it's a good one if you're going to watch one. So thank you all for coming last night. Thank you for being supporters of the show. Please like and share. That's super important to us. We are throttled all the time. I think they're loosening up, actually, the throttling, and our viewership kind of got a bounce. So please like and subscribe. Also, check for invitations. If I've invited you to follow the show so that you get the notification of when the show comes on, please do that as well. But please like and share. That's really important for the growth of the show. And we're trying to grow the show and make sure that we provide you with valuable content. Also, stay on the lookout for a new piece of content that I'm putting out. Recently, I participated in a debate with a Marxist, a self-described Marxist. In fact, he's like, I'm not liberal, I'm Marxist. Okay, so a deep Marxist. They couldn't get any further apart, right? Any further apart, and he would be behind me on the right side. So it was a good debate. It was a little bit tense at times. I felt a little bit free to say some things that I wanted to say, and I did. And so it was a great debate, a very respectful debate. The guy, we left shaking hands. We both enjoyed the friendly debate, as tense as it was, and it was a great fun. I think we'll have to do it often. In fact, they invited you, Tom, to participate in the debate with them. Also, they wanted maybe a 2-on-2. They were thinking, or are you a 1-on-1 with one of the other guys out there and whatever. So it was an interesting thing. It's people who think completely differently, and these are the opinions that matter. The opinions of people like you and I, like people who watch the show, just Americans, not these elitist politicians and whatever, but people of America whose votes are still sacred and valuable and meaningful. So, like I said, like and share the show. We love you. We appreciate you. On behalf of me, school board member John Arguello, and my great friend over here, Citizen Tom, thank you and have a great night.